Good morning. Welcome to Energy Healing for Animals Book Club. And we're on Chapter 3, Animals. We're in Chapter 3. It's called, we're in Chapter 3, and it is called Animal Emotion, Energy in Motion. And we'll talk a lot about that. But before we get started, is anybody on? Are we on?
Yes, we are. We are.
Okay. We had a scare there.
Yeah, it wasn't showing up.
I wonder if anyone's going to comment today.
People, it's telling me who's coming on, so we're good.
Okay. So for those that are new to me, my name is Joan Ranquet. I'm an animal communicator, energy healer, author, TEDx speaker, and founder of Communication with All Life University. I founded the school 10 years ago after I've been teaching animal communication and energy healing since 1998. And we've got some wild dogs who are going to exactly explain my wild justice that I'm going to come up with here in a bit. But anyway, if only you could see what those dogs are doing. But anyway, so I've been teaching since 1998. I've been an animal communicator and energy healer for almost, 25 something years at least. And so when I hit in 2009, I started Communication with All Life University, and it's it's funny. I was getting a sense. I've always said it's where the dream of animal communication comes true, becomes a reality. The dogs are being wacky. We're going to have exactly what I talk about in here is happening over there. So anyway, there's 3 dogs just dying to go into a romp and figuring out who gets the bed. But anyway, so I started the school in 2009 as a way for people to become animal communicators and energy healing, and we're really starting to open up a nature and wildlife piece. And so anyway, I love teaching, and I love my school, and I love sharing all this information. It was a lot of work to put this together. So who's here?
Okay, we got a few people. Quite a few. Sharon Thompson Soul says hello from Maine. Cindy Gens Turner,
hello.
Howdy friends. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
Ruth Curry from
Hi, Ruth.
Hold on. Herndon, Virginia. Nicole Donahue says hi.
Hi,
Elizabeth O'Connell says hi from Staten Island.
Hello.
Michelle Shell says hi.
Hi.
Cindy Grigoriev, hello.
Hello.
So we've got people coming.
Okay, cool. So, it's, we'll just jump right in. And don't let me forget that we want to do something we didn't do last week with the energy, pulling our energy in when we see wildlife.
True.
Okay. Oh. Okay, Delilah, do you want to just come up here and be in the book club? That's a good girl.
Go lead him.
Okay. So anyway, hi. Thank you. So this chapter is, do you want to read it with me? It's Animal, Emotion, Energy, and Motion. And so you could have gotten up here, Abby. It was going to be your turn because it's your fake birthday. I figure it's her birthday. Oh no, she's
Do you
gonna
want me to kind of loom up?
No, we're good. Abby, you can come up. You can come up. Good girl. Up, all the way. Okay. Here's the birthday girl. Okay. Hi. Thank you. Her tail is right on my belly button. Hey, let's just stay here, huh? Can you see Barnaby? God. So this is energy in motion. Animals, emotion.
They're
so
wacky today.
I know. They're completely wacky today.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. So, when I talk about animals and emotion, I don't mean to anthropomorphize, but to honor the emotions that are basic to animals and their similarities and differences from human emotions. And so, in the first part of the chapter, I talk about how, we know that animal emotions are big because, first of all, we don't have to be a National Geographic scientist to know that animals mourn. Last night in my big program, we had, okay, you don't have to fix your tail in my lap. Let's move it there. Anyway, last night in my animal education talks for the big program, I interviewed Ellie Lax from the Gentle Barn, and she really went through like what cows go through, what cows experience in their emotional life, and it's very similar to elephants, and yet it's something we don't know because cows aren't just living out in the wild. They're food or production and all those horrible words. But so we know very little about their emotional life because they don't live to be that old. But we know that she's stealing the show, isn't she?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, did you want to read from the book? Okay, here comes the line.
She's completely that face. How can you not?
I know. So we know how much that they can live in pure emotion, and yet that's just it right there. They can live in the pure emotion, the pure feeling of the moment. And I want to go back to anthropomorphizing because I don't feel like when we're really looking at animal emotions and behavior, we're not giving them people versions. We really, 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 and this is where we have to kind of draw the line of really seeing what their emotions are. And there's a lot we can learn from their emotions, and we'll go into that in a minute. But we've had we certainly do anthropomorphize animals. And we dress them up like humans. And I've certainly been, as they say in here, guilty of, putting jewels on a cat. And having, back in the day, when I was married and had stepkids, my stepkids and my ex-husband and, my dog, Olivia, she loved a good soccer outfit. So, I was just thinking about that on my hike this morning, actually. It's like, I don't know that I have dogs right now that would run around in a soccer outfit, but... she certainly loved it. Like, she was really proud of it. So, we can't just... we also have to look at the individual, right? So, when we see... So, there's... we know they have deep emotions, and we know that they... they can feel very deeply. And one of the things that I say in here that I feel like is really important, that our emotions are literally what put us on the map in terms of etherically, or even if you think in terms of the Akashic records, or that our emotions and how we've lived our life is the almost energetic imprint in the ethers. And that it's like saying, hey, I mattered. So if a bird enjoyed love for 4 seconds with its lover and then accidentally was killed by a car, that love imprints it here on planet Earth. And so I feel like our emotions are the grounding here on the planet. And so learning from them is really, really important. And a mother, like I say here, okay, think about a pair of eggs that burst forth, producing baby owls. Then an eagle swoops in, and sadly those babies are gone forever. The mother's grief, the mother owl's grief, is a record that her babies existed. And maybe next time her offspring's lives won't be cut so short. Maybe one of them will live to be the oldest owl to ever live in that particular woodland. It's also true that sometimes, just like humans, animals in the wild die of a broken heart. This emotional imprinting also exists in our multi-species households, and it also matters. We each contribute to it as well as absorb it. Domestication creates a lingering emotional field, and we mirror our emotions to one another. So we are part of a big system where emotions are part of the imprinting, part of the natural intelligence, and like I've said in the last chapter, part of their survival, like really understanding how much fear is always right there for them is, or fight or flight, if you will, is just always right there. And especially if you have horses, you know it's like that. It's like that. And you think you know your horse, and still something can catch them off guard. I was out last night, and you know what? Every Monday night, guess what? All the neighbors, even if we can't see them, drag their garbage out, because guess what today is? It's garbage day. And yet, the wind was just right, that sound sounded like they're pulling something for the very first time. And my horses both had like a, oh my goodness, what's that? It's like, well, we were just here last Monday, and there was the same sound, and you didn't have the same reaction. So, you know, it's cumulative for them too, right? That could be the wind was a certain way, things are changing, it's, you know, feeling like it's going to be fall. Barometric pressure changes can switch for them. So they can switch like that, and we don't. And so it's a really important thing to recognize. Is anybody saying anything? Questions, comments, observations?
People saying good morning.
Good morning.
And hello.
Hello. Okay. Are people tracking? I mean, are they following?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I tell a couple stories. Oh yeah, here we go. And I really believe that if we, I think I said this last week. If not, I've said it when I was in Houston in a couple places. It has been important for us in science and religion to pretend that there are no emotional lives with animals, because otherwise we couldn't have carried on and done what we've done. And we, meaning man. So if you look at like the amount of animals that are killed through factory farming, the animals that are actually even tortured in factory farming and then killed, the amount of animals that are, you know, living through vivisection, having to be part of science, the amount of animals that have been killed in religious rites, those sorts of things, all in the name of science or religion. It's behooved the human race to pretend there aren't animal emotions. And so when we look at that, you know, we have to, it's pretty daunting to kind of think about undoing that. And so I want to talk a little bit about again, where we are with their emotions, and where their emotions are and where our emotions are. What's that?
So there's a couple of things. Mel says, as always, you're explaining big concepts in a very easy way to follow. Thank you. Boo Schwartz has a question. She doesn't know if it's the right timing, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you just said, she says, can a dog or any animal with a really brutal childhood be an empath?
Yes, of course. Yes, very much.
Cindy Gans Turner
I think
says,
you might have one. Boo.
Cindy Gans Turner says that this stuff gives her nightmares. Me too, Cindy.
Yeah.
100%.
But we're here to do something about it, right? This is why we're here. And so I can't say his name. Dr. Jack Panskep. No, we'll just call it that. He's at the University, or Washington State University, in the he's a neuroscientist, and I love this idea as far as like he's the author of Effective Neuroscience: The Foundation of Human and Animal Emotions. Now, I bought the book, and it's talk about big concepts and a lot of scientific terms that I had to like really break it down. But he talks about the blue ribbon emotions that we share with animals. And the reason this is so important, because we're going to go back to anthropomorphizing here in a second, okay? So when he talks about the blue ribbon emotions, he's not taking anything away, but he talks about how there are certain emotions that we just across the board share. We across the board share grief. We across the board share seeking, right? Some of us are when I'm in New Age bookstores or Edgar Casey, we're all seekers, right? And animals are seekers too. Maybe not of like spiritual concepts, but they're seeking, they're curious. We share that. We share fear, we share lust, we share play, we share rage, we share panic, we share grief, we share care. And one of the things that, I want to break this down for a moment, because why did I put that in this book? And the reason is because there are so many times that people say to me, and I said this last week, like, for example, my 2 cats are jealous of each other. Okay. Well, what happens when they go outside? Well, when they go outside, they lay by the pool next to each other and sleep. Okay. That's not being jealous, right? And let's break this down even further. If 2 animals were to sleep next to each other, there's no bigger sense of safety than that. So if they're not safe with each other because they're jealous, they wouldn't be sleeping next to each other. So when we break down emotions, and even our own emotions, into simple concepts, we're not so diluted with things like, they're jealous of each other, or my dog hates me right now, or my dog is punishing me, or all these things that we really make up that are human concepts that get in the way of that truly deeply connected relationship, because that's where we anthropomorphize. We're not anthropomorphizing when we put them in Halloween costumes, as much as we anthropomorphize when we subscribe a set of emotions for them in a way in which they can't withhold. They wouldn't in the wild. And I'll get to that in a moment. But when I say we subscribe to this, when we're saying our animals are jealous of each other, they are not, right? They are not. They are looking for, they might be resourcing, they might be jealous for a moment, but they don't live in that state. So when we do that, we're short-circuiting their emotions and not allowing them to fully investigate, like, I'm going to be jealous of this for the moment. She's on the lap. I'm going to get up on the lap. All right, forget it. But when we're like, oh no, they're jealous of each other, I've got to do something about this, we are interfering in something that could be momentary, and then we're continuing it by labeling it that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that is like, if I could do nothing else on the planet but unwind that, we would have so many homes with different relationships, because things wouldn't escalate. But when we subscribe to a set of human emotions in a way that we're expecting them to continue to play out, we give them no choice but to play those emotions out. And that's energy. Energy is, we're giving it energy. We're giving it that energy. We continue to feed and fuel those sorts of situations. Is anyone relating to that?
Sharon Thompson says, makes sense. Tony Ann says, wow. Ashara Morris says, totally, and I hear you about unwinding it in the family.
Yeah.
Cindy Gregorio says, I do get it. So many people don't. Deneen says, yes, animals live in the moment. Michelle Shell says, couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Makes perfect sense, as Elizabeth O'Connell. Cindy Summerhill says, oh, that makes so much sense.
And so then when we say, okay, if animals' survival is based on emotion, how could we not be the emotional leader in our household, right? why wouldn't we want to step in and like if somebody's on your lap, and Cindy Gans Turner, I know that like I'd love for you to share some of the things that switched for you since you took the EFT class in Houston, because I think you subscribed a little bit to this emotional life. And Ashara, I know last week you said something about, I made a comment and I knew I was going to get to it this week, as far as you said something about what about household if animals are jealous. And so I'm hoping this takes it even further to what I was trying to quickly type in last week, because we didn't have any of the comments last week.
That's true.
The comments didn't come up in real time, so then afterwards, between this and then teaching my advanced class, I had to quickly like fill in the blanks.
So Bernadette Sector, who's a holistic vet in New Jersey, says, I see this so much every day.
Yeah, and then it's like the dog fight, or you know what I mean, it's like it just becomes the expected behavior when we subscribe to a set of emotions that are not necessarily where they have to be. And then so I want to, and I'm hoping Cindy will.
Ruth Curry actually brought up the Washington Post article on Sunday, which was about the Michael Vick dogs.
Oh yeah.
And
that's exactly, those dogs got to, people changed their emotional life for those dogs, and therefore they got to live out a different life. They got adopted. And that's a perfect example. And it's like the emotion we subscribe to across the board, pit bulls, right? And now we subscribe that emotion across the board to chihuahuas, right? So we don't ever, they can't be trained. They're high strung. That's a stare. I'm staring at Claudia because I can't wait for if Candace is on.
She is.
Dog training there's $1 billion to be made, Candace, in dog training for small dogs, and let's let Claudia be
my guinea pig.
Your guinea pig.
So Michelle Schell said something very profound. She says, I think sometimes that people are attaching human emotions to their animals to fulfill a need of their own.
Absolutely. And it's so, I try not to blame. I just try to educate and to continue to educate and to, like I said, I want to unwind this piece for people, because we have guilt. Look at when my old dog Isabella used to get Henry, my cat, to break open the baby gates, locks around the house, pull the garbage out to that particular part of the rug, where then there would be coffee grounds, not on the other part of the floor where it wouldn't stain, but no, spread the garbage out. And I would walk in the door, and I would look, and Isabella and Henry just accepted their plight and went straight to a timeout. And Henry would purr the whole time, going into his bathroom. And if you think that they felt guilt, guess again. They just thought, all right, that was really fun, and now we have to go in the bathroom for some reason. All right, we're going in together. That's cool. Right? There's no guilt. They're not feeling shame. They're not feeling guilt. I mean, maybe a momentary. I mean, certainly, animals have embarrassment for a moment, but they get back up and do it again. Here, I'll give you a great example. Animal embarrassment works like this. You throw the ball to the dog, it misses it, and it looks, and it's like, oh my God, there could be a moment of embarrassment. But if I think back on when I was in college and I drunk dialed some ex-boyfriend, I could turn red thinking about it still. Embarrassment still lives in my system. But embarrassment with a memory doesn't live in animals. And that's, okay, not that I ever drunk dialed a boyfriend. Okay, but do you see what I mean? Like, I could still turn red. And so does that make sense? Like, that's the difference between these other sort of... So those big blue ribbon emotions, I love those. And if we think of like some of the things that get in our way, like embarrassment or guilt, or they definitely worry, but it can turn into a full-bore panic for them. But they don't have the same kind of... It levels off eventually. And then Mark Bekoff, who is one of my favorite scientists, biologist, he talks about, and I share that in here too, and I share it anytime I can because I love his work. He talks about my favorite concept, and it's called wild justice. So if you saw two wolves, and he studied a lot of wolf behavior, if you saw two wolves, like sort of maybe juveniles kind of going at it, right? And like, it's like playing like the way our dogs do, right? Like the way our dogs were starting to when this, which is so funny because our dogs were starting, Claudia brings her dog over when she works here, and they were starting to do exactly wild justice until I called them up onto the chair. But so let's say that it's like they do their thing, and then somebody bites the ear a little too hard, and this one goes, ah! And then it's like, it goes back, and then they do, it gets a little harsher and has a little more spite to it for the minute, and they go, enough! And they each go to their own corner. In about 2 minutes, like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, you want to play? Okay, cool. Right? Like, they're not like, asshole. Right? Oops, I just swore. But you know what I mean? Like, they're not like, for 1 minute, they're going to stay away. For 1 minute. And that's why, again, it's a territorial thing, a resource. Those are a little bit different. Those are a little more complex. It's more standing your ground and one of them being more of a leader than the other. And that's not the worst idea then for the human to come in as the emotional leader at that point. But there's so many things where we step in and subscribe a set of emotions that they've worked out entirely on their own, and they continue to work out on their own.
Janine Gratz wants to know, so do we move on like the animals with play? You mentioned
Well, let me get to that in a minute.
Okay.
And I want to say other scientists are evaluating Bekoff studies because humans can learn a lot about fairness, cooperation, forgiveness, apology, and justice just by watching dogs. So yes, we all could be learning so much from that, because when Mark Bekoff calls that wild justice, it's like they have their own system with that, and they know fairness. They know what's gone too far. That's gone too far. I'm going over here. They know what is just play. They know what is cooperation. And so because of that, this is where we just missed the boat. So ask the question again.
Just really quick, what page are you on? Someone's asking.
49. And I marked it. Tony. It's the second paragraph down.
So what she said is, so do we move on like the animals with play? You mentioned this in the book, but I'd love to understand this more.
Move on what?
Like the animals with play.
Okay, yeah, I want to understand a little more what you're asking, because I think, so if you're asking, do we, first of all, I think that one thing we could recognize as humans, and I really try to do this a lot, especially because I have all of my students in the advanced courses and from the beginning, from the animal communication on, or whether they're in lost animals or if they're doing a lot of EFT, for us to constantly be assessing our day, right? Like, what am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I feeling right now? Because if you start watching your feelings, you're going to notice that we don't even stay in those tough emotions, but we lock into emotions when we aren't conscious of our feelings. So we can say, I'm depressed, but you know what? 2 seconds later, we could laugh over something. We could say, I'm really sad, but that it's like an ocean wave. So could we move on and play like the animals do? Yeah, we should be able to, but we've created, like, they have feelings and we've created emotions, and our emotions get us stuck. And I'm about to teach the Animals in Transition, Death, Dying, and Beyond, and I'll really go into this more at length, but one of the things that I look at is like grief, and when we feel a big sense of grief because we've had a big loss, we often don't have we have such loyalty to that animal or to those feelings that we don't think we have space for joy. And we talked a lot about this in here in the animals. We did the connecting with your beloved for people in July. We did a master class. And so, if you're in some sort of loss period right now, it might be a good master class for you to go through. But, I'll never forget, like right after my sister died in 86, if I went to the movie and I even caught myself laughing, I was like, right? Like I'm not honoring her death. Well, what we forget is that they don't want us to stay in that level of grief, right? They'd want us to have joy. So that's one of the first places that we get really stuck is when I on. And then when we look at how we move on from even little feelings, like just watching ourselves with being mad about something. Do we stay mad? So that's where, to me, what we can learn from them is so huge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
What was did that answer her question?
She hasn't commented, but it explained it to me.
Okay.
So I don't know, but yeah, absolutely. Yes, she said yes.
Okay, good.
Oh no, sorry.
She's got more?
Yes, she says yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, someone else's yes that I was asked that.
Okay. So I feel like there's a lot we can learn from them, and and a lot of times we also, and it goes back to Boo asking this, our animals can be so empathic to us, and we forget this. We love to say, oh, my animals are mirroring me. We forget that we could be feeling our animals' feelings. And Candace and I have talked about this at length because Candace and I have talked about dogs with fear aggression and going out on the leash. And there was a certain point where Candace said to me, could I actually be picking up on my dog's panic? We always think that it's like the person is picking up on the animal's picking up on the dog's panic because they're going to run into another dog while they're out. Well, the person can actually equally be picking up as much on the dog's panic. So, we go hand in hand with that. And that, again, is where it's like, if we can ground, and if we understood that we are always in a state as empaths of picking up on each other's stuff at all times, right? At all times. And if we start to ground our energy, we don't pick up on as many things around us, and then we can be in charge of and leading someone out of their panic, their fear, their worry, their grief, their anxiety. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
Kim Nesbitt said that last Thursday her Chihuahua Pekingese died, and she's dealing with that grief right now and that pain. She says she feels like she's dying.
I'm so sorry.
Cindy Summerall says, we have become too serious and forget to be more playful and get in tune with that childlike sense within us all. True.
Yeah.
And Sharmar says, yes, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Mel says, to Kim, she says, definitely watch the masterclass in loss and grief. Yes, do watch it.
Mm-hmm.
You want that PP in writing to read over and over the Boo. She says she wants something in writing to read over and over. Boo, can you be more specific? Just because you're talking about.
So I mean, and one of the things I guess, and this is going back to that question. Play is something that all species need. It produces joy and breathes life into work. You can't beat the endorphins that are created from play, and that's what causes pets and their people to find all the ways to play and to want to do it over and over again. we animals and humans share a similar structure and physiology in the brain known as the reward center. And whenever we cooperate or are fair to one another, the reward center fires off. And then that behavior becomes automatic because it feels good. We love doing it and we keep doing it. So like while I always say that training is based on pressure release, something they do in the wild, one of the ways that we get it to be repeated is because of that reward center. It's like that feeling good thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Are there, so what time is it? I don't even know what time it is.
Looking. 10:36.
Okay.
Good.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, observations?
Everybody's telling the woman who just lost her Chihuahua Pekingese to watch the master video because it helped them.
Am I being texted a million times? I'm hearing dings going off.
I don't know. Cindy says, I answered one of Joan's specific questions way up, but she may not want to go back.
Oh, no, let's go back. I really want to...
I'm going back, but I don't... Oh, okay. Yeah, after getting home... Okay, she's talking about...
So Cindy came to the EFT class and in Houston, and she's had a lot of... she has some drama with her animals, and I mean, not terrible, something that a lot of us go through, but go ahead.
So she says, after getting home that day, the dogs started their jockeying for position, what I used to call being jealous, and I firmly told them to knock it off, called Olivia to get up on the chair, and told Claire to lay down, and they did. And then she said, the difference was I was channeling Joan Ranquet.
But that becomes your way of doing it, and it's... when we think, here's what happens. It's like, oh my God, they're jealous. Now I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do, right? And so they keep doing their thing. But when we're like, no, I got a hold of this. It is our leadership steps in, and they don't have to do that to get our attention. They don't have to do it to even... They can even have a different relationship now. Right? They're not locked into that. And Claudia, you've had some changes in your house.
Huge changes. Huge.
Anything to do with stepping in as a leader?
I don't know, maybe. Huge changes. All of my animals, we had a lot of drama, let's just say that. And they're tolerating each other, and they're even sleeping on the same bed together.
That's big.
I mean, it's a king-size bed, and they're all at all corners, but they will all get on the bed together, which was unheard of before. Yeah,
I mean, that's sort of like, that's the ultimate peace, is that, you and your husband are there with 1 million animals, 10 million animals.
Right, yes. Oh, and Cindy Gant says, it works every time. I say, I've got this. Me too, Cindy, especially when Barnaby starts barking up a storm.
Yeah. And I say I've got this to one of my horses that could pretend that she was spooky. And she's like, all right. All right. I mean, it is amazing how important it is to step in that way. And Cindy, and that's one thing I can say about EFT. When we are looking at a behavior from our animal friend, EFT, emotional freedom technique, and I know we're going to talk about it later, and from here on out we're going to really go into the modalities, but anyway, EFT, it has such an impact when it comes to being able to help with the animal's emotion about the situation and then the human's emotion about the situation. So take, for example, the animal has a fear of walking through the hallway, right? Let's say that they've just got a fear for whatever reason of walking through the hallway. So the first time the animal walks through the hallway and has a panic, claustrophobic moment, the animal's claustrophobic, it's evident. Now, the first time the human might feel sorry for them. Okay. then the human might really try to get the animal through. Then the human feels like, oh, what, they don't trust me? And then the human is like, why don't they trust me? I've given everything. So then the next step might be, oh my God, it's a hallway. So while that animal's having just one emotion, fear, claustrophobia, the human makes it all about them and has 19 different emotions. So then that gets projected onto the animal every time they go through the hallway. So I don't like to be one of these human shame blamers. You know what I mean? Like, oh, can you believe it? They were frustrated. We've all been frustrated. Oh my God, I'm the cussing animal communicator. But the point is that if you can get to the bottom of all those tricky little emotions with the human and understand our own process and look at just the simplicity of what the animal is going through, then you can really take apart for the human all those things, help them drop that out of their nervous system, and let the animal be able to make that hallway simply the hallway and not furnished with all of these human emotions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Kim Nesbitt asks a really good question. She says, do large changes happen when you're going to step into leadership?
Large changes happen for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Stepping into leadership and also with the modalities in the animal communication. I mean,
yeah.
It all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And Tony Aventrella says, how do you lead barking? Everyone says you can't change that. It's a little dog.
Well, I tell the story all the time. My dogs used to bark and bark and bark. And so one day, a few years ago, with my older dogs that are no longer here, I sat and I barked in the window with them for half a day. And they thought I was insane. And they didn't understand why I would do that. But through the course of it, I really realized, like, oh, that was a deer. That one was, a coyote. I learned coyote bark, deer bark. Oh, the horses are moving bark. Oh, look, the wind is blowing bark. Oh, there could be Bigfoot. And so this is when I lived outside of Seattle. So but the thing is that I got into the rhythm with them and I really understood. So now I just go and I look out the window with them and say, yeah, I see it. Or I say, I'm not seeing it. I'm calling your bluff. There's no Bigfoot. And so it's, if I see it, then I really acknowledge what they've done, and it's done. And you see my dogs don't erupt that much, do they?
That one brought it easier.
Yeah.
Candace says it only took her 2 years to get over her frustration. And then Mel says, friendly reminder about the wildlife energy exercise.
Oh, okay. This is a good one even for our households, like when we get too caught in our head. So when I was talking about last week when I was with, again, in my farm incarnation, where I was with the baby deer, and I had the experience where the deer saw me and I saw them. I do what I always do with wildlife, and in particular, because I'm always, when I'm on a wildlife trip, I'm always talking about communion with all life. And so instead of communication with all life, it's communion, so that we're in that same vibe. So anyway, let's all just take a moment and do this. So what I want you to do is put both feet on the floor and just start breathing for a moment. You can do this too, Claudia. And now I want you to imagine that you are, on this next inhale, you're bringing your aura in. And on the exhale, allow your aura back out. And on the inhale, bring your aura in. And on the exhale, let your aura back out. On the inhale, bring your aura in. On the exhale, let your aura back out. On the inhale, bring your aura in. And on this next exhale, don't let your aura out. Feel contained for a moment. Feel as if all your feelings, your beingness, your emotions, your Akashic record is all internalized and tucked in. And exhale, not allowing anything out. And just feel what it feels like for a moment to be in this space where you're almost invisible. Go ahead and open your eyes and just notice that we're not coming into the room with a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's great for our household, but when you start to do this, when you see, well, on the dolphin trips, everybody's natural reaction the first time they'd see the dolphins swim up to the boat, they'd be like, oh my God, and we'd have that kind of energy that was like, oh, I'm so excited to see you. And that can be sparky, can be kind of electrical. Whereas when we bring our energy in and then soften with gratitude and things like that, it doesn't have the same effect. So I was just telling Claudia last night when I was cleaning my paddock and I was down with my horses, I had an owl that kept coming over and over and over. And even at one point last night, I took the garbage out and it was just getting dark. And the owl just like circled me and Delilah doing our little chores. So, you know, I feel like it's a natural practice for me to pull myself in when I see wildlife anymore. So pretty much I have some crazy great encounters daily. Even if it's just last night, like this owl kind of circling as I was cleaning, picking up horse poop. But anyway, it's a great exercise.
Tony Ann says, oh my God, that's empowering. Oh, no, that was, yeah. That's for something else. Sorry. My comments are delayed.
Okay.
So, how did...
Anybody else have enjoy that, feel that?
Mel says, I think this technique will be helpful with more than just encountering wildlife. That was a nice cocooned feeling. Thanks, Joan. Oh,
it's incredible.
With people? Oh my God.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an abridged version of what we do with the scalar wave. It's super abridged, but I love to take that out on my wildlife trips. That's what we do when we encounter wildlife. And yeah, it's amazing to just, you know, then you're not, you know, we don't realize how much we're coming in with our crap.
Colette says, so you're saying in nature, keep our own energy in.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they're doing. If you look at like, if you're prey, you want to create invisibility. And if you're the predator, the moment, I mean, there's times when the lions are all laying out there and they're king of the hill. But when they want to go into predator mode, they're stealth and invisible too. They know how to do it like nobody else.
Andrea says it felt claustrophobic.
Okay. Well, you might play with it.
Connie Ox says, leaving self in garbage. Yeah. Colette says, love it, thank you. Christina Hope says she's had similar experiences. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You have to teach.
I have to go teach advanced animal communication on the computer. So thank you for coming. We have animal communication home study course coming up, and I think, what's the date today?
Oh, sorry guys, I just did something. I just flipped it. Apologize for that. Oh, that was me.
Do they see you?
I apologize for that. I don't know what just happened.
That is so funny.
That is so weird. Oh my god. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.